Welcome everyone. We're here live this week with Corinne Coppola, and I'm so delighted to have you with us. I'm just going to read a quick little introduction to who she is. Corinne Coppola, and this is my husky jazz voice. I just need to remind you I've got a bit of a cold. She has a master's degree in organizational development, and she has an integral part in bringing dispute resolution and contentment to the workplace. She also works with pain, loss, substance abuse, and feelings of hopelessness with her clients. And she has a beautiful signature program called Conquer the Invisible. So welcome, Corinne.
Welcome, Lulu. And it's just to say it's Corinne. Rhymes with dream.
Dream Corinne. Thank you. We normally have a few minutes beforehand, and we didn't have that same time today. And I usually try to get this, the names right. When you have an unusual name, that's often what happens. And, I have 3 daughters and they've all got quite unusual names, and they have to always remind people. So sorry, Corinne.
Oh, it's no apologies necessary. Thank you so much, Lulu. It's a thrill to be here with you. You spread so much joy and love in the world. So
thank you. Thank you. So you, of course, wrote chapter 17 in our beautiful book, Wholehearted Wonder Women 50 Plus. And it's called Tame the Flame, Transforming Anger and Resentment to Love and Connection. And, I always reread the chapters beforehand, before we get on to the Wholehearted Chat. And there were so many potent little nuggets in what you wrote. And I really liked, I even liked the reference to the Will Robinson and, I don't know, I'm Australian, so we actually had that show as well. So that danger in Lost in Space. And that's quite potent to know that these red flags that we have, and, that sometimes we don't pay attention. So tell us a little bit more about your chapter. And I know you tell a very vulnerable story in it as well. So.
Yeah, well, for most of my life, Lulu, I have been a rageaholic. And I've had so many women share with me, like, I've never been this angry until I had children. And, the shame that arises in them about it, and the doubt and the fear, like, I'm a bad person, like, and not really understanding, because maybe they've had like where it's coming from. And really what I'm trying to like espouse in the world is to have people really understand that the anger belongs, right? The rage belongs. And the more that we try and push it aside, instead of really trying to understand, like, what is it trying to tell me? Like I often use the analogy of, like, the check engine light, the oil check engine light, right? In a car, to anger. It's telling us that something is wrong, or something isn't feeling right. And to use it as a gateway to get to know yourself better, instead of getting caught up in the shame. Like, we wouldn't say to our toddler who's having a tantrum, right? Like, oh, you shouldn't be upset about this, and we get even angrier at them. Like, it's completely normal for them to have tantrums. So if we look at this part, and it's just a part, it doesn't define us, right? The internal family systems work that I do, that we can become more of a witness to this and explore and be curious, and, like, oh, what is this part needing? Because maybe this part needs rest. Maybe this part needs to play a little bit more, right? So it has information for us and doesn't want us to be stuck in this cycle. Yeah, so that's really, I guess, a passion of mine, because I I get when my children were much smaller, when they were like 5 and under. So I have 3 children that now are 23, 20, and 18, soon to be 21 and 19. I don't know how that happens. You've got young adult and older teen children too. So you know what I mean when I say that, right? But when they were really young, when my daughter, I think she was 5 or 6, 5, probably 4 or 5 even. I remember just a very angry incident. I didn't hurt anyone, but I threw something. I threw a cell phone across the room, and I thought to myself, oh, I need help. Like, this is not okay. And so, I began a journey because, so my point is, I heard one of my teachers say this once, that she could get a PhD in rage. That would be me. So, I'm on a mission to help us love the parts of us that we don't even want to look at, right?
Mm. So I want to address a few things you said there. So first, as a redhead, I get that quite often, that have you got a bad temper? That's the first thing I often get told for redheads. Wow. And I've always turned it around and said, oh, redheads have passion. I always just flip it. The other thing I want to address is how we as women are not really allowed our anger. And so we've been trying to stuff it down. You might need to take over here. I'm going to have a coughing fit.
Okay. Right. So we do try and stuff it down. You're so right about that, Lulu. Instead of really being accepted, we're shamed, the even back from the times of, the witches in Salem, so to speak, right? That we're supposed to be dainty and kind and quiet and seen and not heard. And so there's this whole cultural, cultural feeling, if you will, cultural story about how we need and should show up in the world. And if we don't have anger, there would not be any change. So it's a sign to us that, oh, something needs to change here and we need to do something about it. It's the fuel that we need for the change to happen.
And it's also on that
spectrum.
That when we understand this end, we can understand and love and compassion and passion and joy and all those things. I'm so sorry that I'm having
no. It's all good. It's often what I say when people come to mindfulness, like, you're going to feel better. Yeah, absolutely. You'll feel better. You'll feel your anger better. You'll feel your sadness better. You'll feel your joy better. Everything becomes more intense, so to speak.
I recently did some work around sacred rage, that kind of like the generational part that we've carried for women, and like really facing it and befriending it. And so I think I was also in your chapter, I was thinking about the flame, and I was thinking, actually often it's a raging bushfire is what we think, but it's because we've been trying to contain it.
Yes, the more that we push, what is, the saying, what we resist persists, right? And what we don't honor gets stronger. Like, the more we push anything down, the more, like, any part that's trying to come out and tell us something, the more we push it down, the more it wants to drive the bus, right? So and then I would start to feel, I don't know if anybody can relate to this, but I would feel like I'd have rage hangovers, right? So now, I just went through a very large transition in my life. My youngest just went off to college, and I gave away or sold most of my stuff and moved 3.5 hours away to the beach temporarily, which is another thing. Like, I'm not grounded anywhere. I'm getting ready to travel for about 6 weeks and then come back to the beach for about 8, so like it's this whole, Anyway, needless to say, I was navigating the change at the end of August. I was like, oh, this is pretty good. I haven't exploded. Like there hasn't been like a big thing. And then my youngest son, I talk about this actually in one of my blog posts. My youngest son said to me 2 days before I was leaving, he was going to help me move. I'm not going to help you move. What? That was the gas went on the fire. It went up to, 10 plus. And I sat in my closet after I screamed at him, because that happened. I sat in my closet and cried, and told myself the stories like I only can depend on myself. I can't even depend on anyone. Blah 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 blah. All of the stories from the past that I so lovingly curated in my life. Then I calmed down. Now the old me would have stayed in that rage hangover. Instead, I was able to give myself forgiveness and this option of like, of course, like, did you think this was going to be a walk in the park? So really cultivating this self-compassion. Like, Corinne, it's been hard. This is really hard. You're letting go of your home. You've lived in this area for over 30 years. There's a lot of change. And this felt like a gut punch. So what am I needing right now? And then going back and doing the repairs with my son. And yes, he did help me move. Everything, worked out. And, the morning that he was supposed to help me move, he was supposed to show up at a certain time. I get a text from him. Hey, Mom, I'm going out for a run. I'm like, woo, woo, and I was able to show up better, knowing that he, focusing on the good. Hey, you know what? He's healthy. He's going to show up. It's going to be an hour later than I want him to be here. And so what? Like, what's next? And so just really so it was such a shift from the 48 hours prior, the 72 hours prior, to have a different response, and it comes from allowing the anger to be there, of course, the invitation, and not staying stuck in the shame.
Mm-hmm. And I like how you talk about the betrayals, the big B's and the small B's. And the one that often women and all people don't realize is the times they betray themselves. And, this is sometimes hard to recognize that you've done that. So what I like to say to the viewers or anyone who's watching this after is, Corinne has a way of holding you in, the feelings of your guilt, your shame, your, betrayal of yourself. And she's walked the path. So that's always really good. And the deepest place, she wants people to be aware of their acceptance of where they are, and how in your own forgiveness and also in forgiving others, you're not trying to change the past in any way. It's more about this allowance and acceptance. So I'm going to go into a few questions now. And I do apologize, and I'm not going to keep apologizing, but I'm just going to apologize because I have no control over my voice today. So who has been your greatest mentor?
Yeah, so this is a fabulous question. It really is, because it's changed over time, right? So for now, we're just going to do for now. And those are actually two great words that people can take away from this conversation. Like, everything changes all the time. So just saying to yourself for now. For now, there's a teacher of mine, La Sarmiento, who I feel really, really embodies this idea of self-acceptance, self-forgiveness, and just lives their truth. And they show up with exquisite compassion, just for themselves and everyone around them, and speaks of their own difficulties and their own struggles with such vulnerability and grace and kindness, that's what is effused around them. And yeah, despite, you know, many difficulties in their lives, in their life. And yeah, that's who my mentor is right now.
And isn't that true for even all the authors in the book, that when we come to a place of our own acceptance and we can even share that story without it taking us somewhere else, that we've actually worked through, you know, the pain, the guilt, the betrayal, all those things, that we are there to support others. And that's part of our book, and our message for the book is, no matter where you are today, you know, this is just a moment in time, and there's somewhere else you can be moving to, and all the authors are there to provide that for you. So we'll go to the next question. And the next question I have is, what has been one of the biggest challenges and learning experiences that you've had?
Well, I'm going to use, you know, my most recent, the empty nest, and deciding to move, you know, and just trusting my intuition. You know, I had come to visit Chincoteague a little bit over a year ago and fell in love. And I was like, how can I get there? You know, and thought, should I buy a house? Did I do this? And I decided to do a long-term rental, and everything sort of just fell into place. And it hasn't been easy. Like, people will be like, oh, you're living at the beach. Well, you know, I'm living in a town that has 3 traffic lights. And I adore the women that I see at the Y every morning, you know, but my social calendar is limited, right? And everything being virtual, and starting over again in a new area, and just really sitting with the uncertainty of every day. Like, I didn't, you know, I'm not sure where I'm going to spend Christmas for sure yet, you know, and letting go of control, which has been a huge, huge lesson, unexpected lesson, because really just having to show up just in today and not worrying about tomorrow. OMG is all I'm going to say. That's the biggest lesson right now that I'm learning, is about trust and faith, and just keeping my head where my feet are, you know.
And I think for women at this age is not to rush into that next thing. That's, you know, we tend to, well, then I better do that, and then I better do that, you know, like leaving the spaciousness in our life, you know, in our time, in our calendar, all of those things, you know. There's a lot of learning to the being place of human. You know, we've been humans doing for a very long time, the beingness, and what a beautiful place to be is at the beach. Like, you know, I love the beach, and especially being an Australian. I always live near the coast, and I'm in landlocked Atlanta at the moment. So I'm like, yeah, being, a lot more beingness is needed, I think. So tell me, if you have experienced a miracle or an answer to a prayer.
So I'm going to say to you almost every day. And I say that gratitude is so woven into who I am in the morning and in the evening. And literally, Lulu, I got in my car last night to go pick up something for dinner, like fish, to make myself something for dinner. And I got in the car and I said, okay, God, let's see what kind of miracle you have for me tonight. And I get back in my car, you know, I pick up the fish, I get back in my car, I get home, and I look at my phone, and a new client had made a deposit. And I think that we get stuck so much in whatever story, like I think that my P&L sheet that I did for my business is what's going to come in January, or even by the end of December. And that's not the story. right? That's just for today. But we take what is here, what we feel is like physical, and we project it into tomorrow. And we could never, ever know. I mean, we just don't know, good or bad. Like I could pick up the phone and one of my sons could have gotten in an accident. I'm not saying this, I have a dear friend who was diagnosed with a serious leukemia diagnosis out of nowhere, went to the ER, and then all of a sudden his life has changed. So I think that, and even in that, like I have a client who is a cancer survivor, right? And the gift of the cancer has been the depth of the relationships that he's been in, and how much more reverence he has for life. Like there would be no way that you could say, oh, cancer is a miracle, right? But now he can say that.
Yeah.
So I think, for me, I experienced miracles, like even in the little things, like my dog being healthy. I don't, that to me is a miracle, but, and actually living in this house was a complete miracle, completely. It was like it was so easy. And, just, we think we have to struggle, and sometimes we need to struggle to, I think, make us strong, but it doesn't always have to be that way. And what's meant for us will come to us,
Yeah, I agree. And a lot of unlearning along the way, that things we thought that was the path, actually we need to unlearn them and, change the direction ourselves. So you have an offer for our viewers. So would you like to share that? And of course, Corinne's going to drop that into the chat afterwards, and you also see it in that group.
Yeah. So I would love for anyone right now that might be like, just feel buried in self-doubt, or just feel battered by the storms of life. Like maybe there's been a cancer diagnosis, or a divorce, or job loss, or whatever, loss of a life in some way, that you do not need to struggle alone, that I really am here to help and give you tools. So what I do is I create a personalized roadmap for people to really help move them forward through whatever that they're struggling with, so that they can feel invincible. Because if you've read my chapter, I've been through some stuff, and there's no way that I should be sitting in front of you with a smile and with a positive attitude and with hope. And I'm here to tell you that there is hope, there is possibility, and there is a better life waiting for you. So I'd encourage you to schedule a discovery call with me, and we can come up with, I will give you at least one tool in that 20 minutes that you can start applying to your life. And I guarantee you, you will feel better when you get off the call with me.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. So as I said, that will be dropped into the chat, and you may want to reread some of the chapters, especially if you have our book, or if you are, you bought it back in June, you may want to now also purchase it for a friend for the holiday season. So please go ahead and do that on Amazon. I really appreciate your time today. Dream Corinne. I'm going to call you that from now on. And thank you for the viewers watching, and sorry about the whole throat thing, but that's our life. So many thanks.
Thank you so much, Lulu. And I loved how you said unlearning, so that there's so much opportunity. Yeah. Thank you so much. Blessings to you and to everybody watching.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.